Welcome to Morning Tea with MTC. My name is Kat Chan and I'm a set and costume designer. Today I'll be answering questions about design sent in by teachers and students. So let's get to it. I studied and worked in the field for a short period, and then I was impatient to design and build worlds. I think I'd always had that element of fantasy and wanting to tell stories. I kind of wanted to move into the world of building a whole universe and immersing an audience into it, rather than architecture where you're building an environment for someone to experience. This is more like building a world and choosing to show and conceal things to your audience. To be a part of a production that has revealed something to someone or made them think about a topic or society in general, and sitting in the auditorium with the audience is kind of a nice thrill as well, to be there while an audience is watching this world that you've helped create. I did learn. I am not shy in admitting that I'm a dabble maker. I don't specialize in anything, and I can make, but much respect to the actual specialists and experts that can make, so I leave it up to them. It was for an education show called Beached, and that came off the back of getting placed in a scholarship where I got to kind of intern in the production department, specializing in set and costume. And then I guess from there it was, having started a relationship with the company, I then a few years ago applied for the Women in Theatre program, and was lucky to participate in that in the set and costume stream. And I was placed with a mentor, Christina Smith, and learned a lot from. And I guess it was just from there networking out, or just kind of getting to know more people. I guess it led to working on Golden Shield as an associate designer, and then Torch the Place. Dance, I will be given a concept. It could be a piece of music, or it could be an idea that the choreographer wants to express. It might be the concept of grief or love or heartbreak. But with plays, generally, or most of the time, I will get a text, a script. A lot of the professional companies, I feel like there's enough lead-up time because they've planned their seasons so far in advance, and the teams that will be working on it, that generally there is enough time. You'll get the script 6 months beforehand and start having conversations really early. Whereas in the independent theatre, a lot of that's just a little looser and more fluid. So you could get a script 3 months before, which is still a very generous, well, not very, it's still a generous time in that field. And sometimes you could get a script 3 weeks before it opens. I mean, it's not great. To speak to the director or the choreographer, they are the ones who are basically kickstarting this project. You know, they have the overall vision and they have a reason why they've chosen this project or production to work on. And so you kind of need to figure out what that is. What is the impetus of this piece? And then I guess for what I do in terms of designing is then really interrogate and analyze the source, be it text or a concept, and see how it resonates with me, and then start sketching, start drawing ideas, and start drawing from sources, be it music, art, random Instagram posts, and starting a Pinterest board. Big thing. One of the major considerations or differences between theatre and dance is, for set design, is the amount of space, the amount of floor space you'll need, because We are there to see the dancers on the floor moving around. So you give them the space and you then design around that, which is probably why a lot of traditional ballet sets have just legs and borders. Whereas theatre, obviously, you build according to what the text needs. And the script is usually pretty prescriptive in terms of what is required, be it from stage directions or from actual dialogue. With costume design, it's kind of the opposite. So dance costumes are more prescriptive because they need to be more functional. Say if we're talking about ballet, these costumes need to fit generally multiple dancers. They need to be sweated in constantly, so they'll need to be washed constantly, and they'll need to be very flexible, because the range of movements that these costumes will need to do, require extra gussets or stretch. For set design, I generally sketch by hand, especially when I'm communicating with the director or the lighting designer or whoever I need to communicate with. And once I've solidified the design, I'll then move on to CAD. So I'll go onto the computer and I'll draw it up. I find hand drawing more expressive, but the computer aided design is a lot handier when you're making a lot of changes. And then I'll go into model making, which is kind of the tool that communicates the most and to the most people, I guess. You can show actors where they'll be, you can show the lighting designer, you can kind of foresee any spatial issues and sightline issues as well. And also the builders and the painters use your model to build from, so it needs to be quite exact. With my costumes, I feel more comfortable drawing by hand, and then I might scan it and then render it in Photoshop after that. If we're talking just design concept-wise, it would just be a lot of conversations with the lighting designer. So it could be asking what their ideas are or where they might want to put their lights, because that would affect the set design. And with costumes, I would discuss with the lighting designer what kind of colors they'll be using on stage, because that can affect the materials or the color that you'll be using in your costumes. And in dance, the lighting language there is a lot of side lighting. So you have a lot of booms. So if you are designing set, you always have to allow and know that you will have these booms off stage that you cannot put anything in front of. I'll usually ask for their feedback when after I've presented the design. Just have a conversation about how they feel about their characters and the costumes, if they have any feedback. And then in fittings, it depends on the actors. Sometimes they're completely happy to just wear whatever you feel their character would. And sometimes other actors have thoughts and strong ideas about what their characters would and wouldn't wear. And that's a great collaboration to have. Those concrete walls were built flats, covered in little timber panels painted to look like slate. So it's all trickery. There were a couple of makes. I would say most of it was bought, but things like the mother's nightgown and her Princess Diana maternity dresses and all the red sequin outfits, they were all made from scratch. But a lot of the things that we do buy and source are altered and tweaked to make it work on stage. In the original design, I've used 2 Sanrio Japanese cartoon characters, and we couldn't find the exact right print in the right color and in the right apparel, clothing. And we couldn't reprint it ourselves because that would be a breach of copyright. So we thought laterally and we bought bed sheets that had these cartoon characters already printed and licensed, and we cut that up and turned it into pajamas for the mother. I am currently designing Romeo and Juliet, the ballet, and it's interesting because I'm not really designing a full set. I'm designing, let's say, large props that will be used as a set and just kind of give you a flavor of the play. I studied the postgrad design course, so I think the curriculum is slightly different to undergrad. So there's like a lot of shortcut and cramming of knowledge in, a shorter amount of time. So when I was at VCA, I guess I learned everything in a short space of time, because VCA is very practical. It is, here's a show, get it done. And so you learn very quickly by being quite hands-on. Sometimes we use the word filmic or cinematic. So we might read a script that has a lot of scene changes, or the scenes are very short and they all roll in. You feel like there's no time for a blackout, or it would be inappropriate to have a scene change. So I feel like that's the rhythm, I guess, that would affect the set design in terms of you don't have time for big changes. So how can you subtly shift something? It could just be lighting, so that's a conversation. But what is the quickest and most effective way to enable quick changes? I love creating worlds. I love working with other creatives, getting to talk about how we're going to tell stories and why it's relevant. Just being allowed to dream, being given the permission to just see the world, like really observe and really think about what I'm looking at and why, and how I can use sources to create designs. I actually keep changing my mind. I oscillate between preferring set and costume, but I think ultimately both at the same time, because it means more control of the world to shape everything that's seen on stage besides lighting, and that's really satisfying. 45 Downstairs. I love the character that it has, and I guess in designing there, I enjoy that it's such a flexible space that you can curate an audience experience from the moment they walk in the door. Thanks for your fantastic questions. The next episode of Morning Tea with MTC is coming soon. Go to mtc.com.au/morningtea to submit your questions for the next guest.